2025 will change our lives as we know it, but it will be a quiet transformation. We won't reach the AGI and robots will not be walking on the streets. What will happen, however, is that every AI technology that has been developed so far will slowly merge into something much greater. It will bring a ton of opportunities, but only for those who are well positioned before it begins. So in this video, I'll dive deep into the 5 key AI trends that you need to prepare for by 2025. I'll explain what those trends are, how they will impact the industry, and how you can prepare to take full advantage of the opportunities that they will create. Let's dive in. Okay, before we get started, am I the right person to talk about all this? Well, I'm certainly not a researcher and I don't have a PhD, but I do have something different. I have 4 years of practical experience implementing AI models in various industries. I also run an AI agency and my own AI agent framework on GitHub with more than 2,000 stars. Now, let's get to the trends. Trend number 1, specialized AI agents. AI agents are models that can take actions on our behalf. And there are 2 types of AI agents that you can make. You can make either custom AI agents or you can make specialized AI agents. Custom AI agents are agents that are fine-tuned on a specific business process. Because they know your or your client's procedures inside and out, they can automate incredibly complex tasks. Tasks where there's some decision making involved in the process or where things can go wrong and where the AI needs to adapt based on circumstances rather than just follow a set of predefined steps. Think about roles like research, marketing, or management. None of these functions could be fully automated before with simple AI automations. However, sometimes what we found in our agency is that some businesses simply don't have the standard operating procedures to automate. They just want to automate a very general process for a given role. That's where our second approach comes in, specialized AI agents. These are pre-made agents that have already been trained on a general process for a specific role. So although they're called specialized agents, they're actually specialized for a given role, not for a business. So in fact, they are more general than custom AI agents. And the primary benefit of having these pre-made AI agents fine-tuned on a general process is that you can deploy them much faster. You can have them up and running in a matter of hours. So while these agents might not provide as much value as completely custom AI agents, they are incredibly useful for businesses that need quick solutions or don't have the necessary resources. Here are some examples. Casign's Genie AI agent is a software development agent that outperforms the famous Devin by cognition almost 3 times compared to the score that they initially claimed and 10 times compared to the actual score.
We've designed new techniques to derive human reasoning from real examples of software engineers doing their jobs. Our data represents perfect information lineage, incremental knowledge discovery, and step-by-step decision-making, representing everything a human engineer does logically.
It is backed by OpenAI and it is using their fine-tuned GPT-4o model that was trained on the reasoning steps typical of software developers.
By actually training Genie on this unique dataset, rather than simply prompting base models, which is what everyone else is doing, we've seen that we're no longer simply generating random code until some works. It's tackling problems like a human.
It also has a user interface for streamlined onboarding and setup.
You'll notice you can prompt Genie with a natural language prompt, ticket, or in our case, a GitHub issue. So I'll go ahead and start. There we go. All the tests are now passing. Genie has successfully solved this problem, and it solved it in just 84 seconds.
Next, we got Harvey AI. This specialized agent has been trained on a vast amount of tax and legal data. It can perform various legal processes like filings, due diligence, terms of service, and more. Fun stuff that we all enjoy. It significantly outperforms the base models on legal data. And finally, we have Sakana AI, which is a specialized AI scientist agent. It was fine-tuned on a general research process that includes generating ideas, conducting experiments, reviewing scientific papers, and peer reviews. To support this trend, OpenAI's model customization program is even offering you 1 million training tokens for GPT-4o per day. Yes, it means that until September 23, you can now train GPT-4o up to 1 million tokens per day completely for free. So how do you prepare for this trend? Well, first, obviously, use the free tokens if you can and try to develop a specialized AI agent for another role like marketing or sales yourself. However, keep in mind that all of the companies I mentioned before are funded multi-million startups because creating an agent that can be reused across multiple businesses typically requires more resources. So feel free to use my framework to get started faster and find additional help in our Discord, but keep in mind that you might want to seek funding later. The second way is to utilize these systems yourself. In my opinion, by combining multiple specialized agents together, you could achieve significantly more leverage than just by using one of them. You could potentially even start a business without any employees at all. So test them frequently as they come out and see how you can use them in your work. In summary, specialized AI agents will significantly lower the barriers to entry in the AI agent space. Much like how Netflix popularized movie streaming with its subscription-based model, specialized AI agent platforms will make AI agents more accessible. While they are less customizable, these agents will serve as an excellent starting point for most small and medium-sized businesses. Trend number 2. Natural language APIs. Natural language APIs are APIs that are designed specifically for large language models. If you think about it, any product that exists in the cloud, like a SaaS platform, is literally just a bunch of API endpoints connected together through a user interface. User interface itself is not the product. The product is the backend, because this is where the main functionality is. User interface just allows us to use that functionality. And not that user interfaces aren't important, I firmly believe that the user interface was the reason GPT 3.5 blew up. It wasn't the RLHF technique, it was the fact that the RLHF technique allowed for chat-based interactions that were a lot more natural for a common user. And now that we have something even more natural, specifically this,
hey, I want you to count from 1 to 10 really fast as you can.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yes, I mean Omni models that allow for literally real-time voice and video-based interactions. There's no longer a need for any clicking, scrolling, and typing. These models can now perform any actions on your behalf. And companies like Microsoft with their own Copilot and Apple with Siri are recognizing the potential here.
First, Siri can now sound more natural as it speaks to you. Second, Siri is now more contextually relevant and more personal to you. Apple Intelligence will provide Siri with on-screen awareness, so it will be able to understand what you're looking at and take action on it. And third, thanks to richer language understanding, you can now speak to Siri more naturally. Even if you stumble over your words, Siri will understand what you're getting at.
Soon, if you want to order Uber Eats, you won't even have to open an app. You will just chat with the model on your device about what you want to get, confirm the payment, and it will order it for you. Or maybe you wouldn't even have to do anything at all because it knows everything about your habits, and it might even order it for you just in time. And the way it will all work is through natural language APIs. The name might be different depending on the operating system, but yeah, in Apple, you can already do this with app intent domains or with what they call it assistant schemas.
Apple Intelligence is powered by foundation models that give Siri new capabilities in the domains we just talked about. These models are trained to expect an intent with a particular shape. This shape is what we call a schema, and assistant schemas is what we call the API. If you build an app intent with the right shape, you'll benefit from our training and don't need to worry about the complexities of natural language. All you need to do is write a perform method and let the platform take care of the rest.
It's funny because in my framework, it works the exact same way, except the perform method is called run.
This year, we've built schemas for over 100 kinds of intents, like creating a photo or sending an email. They each define a set of inputs and outputs that are common for all adopters of that intent. This is what I mean by shape. In the middle of all this geometry, sits your perform method, with full creative freedom to define an experience that is right for your app. Now, let me walk you through the lifecycle of a Siri request with Apple Intelligence to demonstrate assistant schemas in action. Everything starts with a user request. This request is routed to Apple Intelligence for processing through our models. Our models are specifically trained to reason over schemas, allowing Apple Intelligence the ability to predict one based on user request. Once an appropriate schema is selected, the request is routed to a toolbox. This toolbox contains a collection of app intents from all the apps on your device, grouped by their schema. By conforming your intent to a schema, you give the model the ability to reason over it. Finally, the action is performed by invoking your app intent. The result is presented and the output is returned.
But it's not just Apple. AI providers also want you to connect your apps to their LLMs, which is evident by new features like structured outputs by OpenAI. So if you want to learn more about how these models can now reason reliably over those schemas, make sure to check out my previous video on structured outputs later. However, with this new trend, there are even more opportunities on the horizon. Some of you might be familiar with API as a service products. These products provide API endpoints without a user interface at all. For example, there are URL shortener APIs, weather information APIs, text-to-speech APIs, currency conversion APIs, and others. Some people are secretly making big money on this. Now, with the release of Omni models, imagine a product that users interact with solely through an LLM. You can create an API-based service that users subscribe to and then simply plug into their LLMs on their own devices. Zapier was one of the first movers in this space with AI Actions API. This is exactly what I'm talking about here, a natural language API designed specifically for large language models. And although it's not quite there yet, I'm confident that in 2025 we'll see even more products like this. So if you're a developer, start learning about app intents and how to integrate apps with large language models depending on your operating systems. If you want to build a SaaS, think about developing a natural language API, whether it's a new product or an existing one. This trend will be huge for all developers because it will completely transform how we create apps and how we use them on our devices. Trend number 3, emerging architectures. And I am not talking about new model architectures, this is probably also coming soon, but here I am talking about something much bigger. So far, the research suggests that intelligence scales proportionally with the number of parameters. However, while we can likely accommodate for the rising demand in compute with 100 billion data centers like this by OpenAI and Microsoft, there's another problem that money alone can't solve.
One ChatGPT query takes nearly 10 times as much energy as a typical Google search, and as much energy as keeping a 5-watt LED bulb on for an hour. Generating an AI image can use as much power as charging your smartphone.
Generating an AI image can consume as much energy as charging your smartphone. So as you might guess, the global electricity demand also skyrocketed in 2022. And unless there is a breakthrough in AI architectures, we might hit a plateau not because of the technological limitations, but simply because we don't have enough electricity. You see, the fact that we're running our current AI models on existing hardware is essentially just a coincidence. CPUs and GPUs are designed for a different type of computing, where the outcome of an operation is always either 0 or 1. AI models, on the other hand, work in a probabilistic fashion, meaning that AI models assign probabilities for certain outputs and then select the most likely one. This is why companies like IBM and Google have their own quantum AI divisions. However, it's now evident that quantum computing is still not ideal for AI, which is why we're starting to see the rise of new computing paradigms like thermodynamic computing. And the company leading this innovation is called Extropic, funded by Guillaume Verdon.
What we're building at Extropic, our mission essentially is to build the ultimate substrate for AI compute, right? Hit the ultimate limits of physics in terms of density, spatially, in terms of energy efficiency and speed for AI. So how do we do that? Well, we embed AI algorithms into the physics of the world as tightly as possible.
Extropic takes a completely different approach by embedding AI algorithms directly into the physics of thermal processes. They use natural noise to perform computations, which is perfect for generative AI tasks because it aligns with the probabilistic nature of how AI models work. Take a look at this video.
Right, so tokens per second divided by watts. It's 100 million times more energy efficient, which again, ballpark of the brain. Again, this is not a machine we've built. It's in simulations, so it's a projection. I'll show you in a second the machine we've actually built, but this is extrapolated from the data we got and are as accurate as we could simulations. In terms of speed, it's about 1,000 to 10,000 times faster in GPU for inference of deterministic neural networks. So for sampling of Monte Carlo, it's about 1 million to 10 million times faster.
Of course, right now this is just a simulation, but I mean 1,000 to 10,000 times faster inference. Compare this to Grok, which is only 12 to 18 times faster than GPU, and it's also 100 million times more energy efficient. So how do you prepare for this trend? Well, definitely keep an eye on companies like Extropic. Their testing begins in early 2025 and they should have a white paper coming out soon. If their vision becomes a reality, you might want to scale up your dreams as well. For example, if right now running a 400B model is too expensive for your use case, imagine what it would be like if you could run a 1,000 times bigger model 100 times cheaper. In summary, emerging architectures might just be the key to unlocking AGI. If companies like Extropic succeed, this will ultimately bring the cost of intelligence to zero, leading us to abundance and prosperity. Trend number 4, humanoid robots. Remember that movie with Will Smith, where by 2035 there was one robot for every 3 humans? Well, what if I told you that it could be more like one robot for every human? Yes, we're talking billions by 2040, and this is already here. Figure, the leading robotics company in this field, valued at 2.6 billion, with investors like OpenAI, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Jeff Bezos, recently released Figure 2 with a ton of new features, and they are starting their production line next year. They already have first customers signed, like BMW Manufacturing. And by the way, these robots will also be quite affordable, somewhere only around $20,000, which is equivalent to a low-level car, except it will be able to work for you 24 hours a day for years. At the moment, it seems like Figure is the most advanced company. However, they are far from being the only one. In total, there are around 20 other companies that are trying to accomplish the exact same thing around the world. For example, there is Tesla, of course, in the United States and Boston Dynamics, and there are AGI Bot and Unitree in China. Now, the difference that makes Figure unique is how they are utilizing large language models. At the top, they've partnered with OpenAI to integrate their reasoning model. This is ideal for humanoid robots because of the real-time voice and audio processing capabilities we discussed before. This model then integrates with neural network policies. I assume this is similar to how agents use tools through natural language APIs. These policies process requests from the main agent, translating them into specific behaviors. The system then repeats this process in a feedback loop until the task is accomplished. While this is just my interpretation, it's clear that Figure's partnership with OpenAI will be instrumental to their success in this market. So how do you prepare for this? Well, although these robots will be general, I assume they'll still need some specific training, much like digital AI agents. For instance, if you want to employ one in your cafe or at a manufacturing plant, you'll most likely at least have to tell this agent about your business procedures, your company policies, and specific tasks. So, knowing how to train digital agents could evolve into one of the most unique job opportunities yet: training humanoid robots to operate effectively in different physical environments. In summary, humanoid robots are no longer a distant future concept. They are here and they will start transforming the way we work as soon as next year. Although they will of course eliminate a ton of jobs, I'm sure about that, they will also create a whole new job market for those who are prepared. Trend number 5, government regulation. So far all the trends I mentioned are positive, and I truly believe that they will bring immense benefits to humanity. However, there is one trend that could significantly delay everything we've discussed far beyond 2025. So recently there have been new developments both in the United States and in Europe. California recently issued a new controversial AI safety bill, and both OpenAI and Anthropic executives responded with formal letters expressing their opinions. We are going to go over that bill, of course, in a bit, but first let's take a look at broader AI acts, specifically the EU AI Act and the Responsible Advanced AI Act in the United States. The general consensus is that both the EU and US are going to regulate models above a certain number of flops, which is the computing power that goes into training such a model. This is exactly what Sam Altman proposed a few months ago in May, and the Responsible AI Act even quotes him directly in a summary. In the United States, this number equates to 10 to 26 flops, while in Europe it's 10 to 25. If more than this amount of compute goes into training your model, you will have to go through extensive risk assessment, model evaluation, transparency requirements, and reporting. For reference, to train 405B model, you need around 3 times more compute than the requirement in Europe and 3 times less compute than the top requirement in the United States. This is the only objective metric that I found in both of these acts. Other criteria include, like, if you can use this AI in the development of chemical or nuclear weapons, or if you can use it in high impact areas like law enforcement, education, and employment. But here's the thing, it has already been proven many times that ChatGPT can greatly assist college students in developing bioweapons. Additionally, scientists use ChatGPT all the time to assist them with research, which is evident by an increasing frequency of LLM-related keywords in scientific publications. So no one still really knows under which category ChatGPT falls, and the legislators probably don't even know themselves, because both acts also include clauses like administrator has the freedom to make rules stricter without any evidence. This last clause is specifically problematic because I want to emphasize that there is absolutely no real evidence right now that there is something nefarious living inside ChatGPT. I also want to be clear that in the United States this act has not been passed yet, unlike in Europe, but it is already being used as a guide for other legislation. So for example, in the new SB 1047 bill in California, which is on track to start taking effect by the next month, instead of using flops, it simply uses costs as the metric. So now all models that cost over $100 million to train in California must be regulated. They must provide extensive proof of safety, implement mandatory safeguards like a kill switch, undergo annual audits by third parties, maintain safety protocols, and submit regular reports. However, the most concerning aspect of this bill is that it holds developers responsible for any misuse of their models, even if the model was later fine-tuned or modified after its creation. This is completely absurd, and I have no idea how could this even be discussed, but OpenAI's chief strategy officer already expressed concerns and stated that this bill could halt all model releases and AI development in California. Anthropic, on the other hand, surprisingly said that this bill provides more benefits and likely outweighs the costs. So how will this affect the AI industry? Obviously, it benefits major players like Anthropic and OpenAI the most, because very few companies will have the resources to meet those safety checks. The open source community in California will most likely be completely destroyed, because it's much easier to create a derivative of the model and misuse it from an open source project rather than a closed one. Secondly, it will slow the AI development in the United States and in Europe, potentially allowing countries like China to catch up, which could be a lot more dangerous than someone misusing ChatGPT. And third, this might actually decrease the amount of money that goes into the safety research, because as you might guess, all of those model evaluations, kill switches, and audits will not be financed from the company's profits. They will be financed from the same safety budget that OpenAI and other companies devoted to super alignment and research. So to prepare for this, we have to monitor how this whole story unfolds. The bill should start taking force gradually over the next year in California. However, keep in mind that even if we completely stopped AI development today, it will still take us years to fully realize the full potential of everything that has been created so far. So the best thing that you can do right now is learn how to develop useful AI applications for good. To get started, I recommend watching this video next. Thank you, and don't forget to subscribe.